Alright, welcome back everyone. In this video I'm going to be going over the select function from the dplyr package. So to get started, let's load up dplyr. And now I actually want to use this dataset that we used earlier, this MPG dataset. So let's just assign it to this data object, which we're going to call data. And just briefly, let's take a look and remind ourselves what this one looks like. So remember, I didn't know really what this was called. First thing we can do is we can actually use dplyr to rename that column, because that column clearly wasn't helpful for me. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it meant, but looking into it, it stood for displacement. And dplyr comes with a really handy function called rename, where we can actually rename that column very easily. And so the way that we're going to do this is we're going to actually overwrite our existing data object with this new rename function. So the rename function, what you give it is you give it a data object where you're going to want to be renaming columns, and then you write in the new column name that you'd like, which we want to be called displacement, equals to, so you're using this assignment here, the existing name in the current data table. So let's just make sure we have that right here, right? So it's displ. We want it to be renamed to displacement. So if I were to just highlight this chunk here and run this, it's going to return this data object. But because we didn't assign it to anything, it just exists here in the console. We don't have it actually saved. But if we take this data and then reassign it onto data, we just overwrite this. So let's do that. And then let's take a look at our data object now and see how it looks. So you see here, we've now replaced the disple column with displacement, and that's a lot more intuitive for us. Another useful function that we get from the dplyr package is the select function. So if we have a data table like this, and we have a lot of columns in here, and perhaps some of them we don't really care about. If we want to create a smaller data table, perhaps for exporting or any other reason, we can use the select function to help with that. So let's call this new data object small data, and what we'll do is we'll just select certain columns from our bigger data set here. So which column should we care about here? Let's say we care about manufacturer, class, and displacement. Okay, we can simply do that by saying select from our data and then list the columns that you're interested in. So we're interested in manufacturer, we're interested in class, and we're interested in displacement. In fact, to make this a bit cleaner here, perhaps we can lay it out like that. And now if we run this piece of code, we'll create this new small data object with 3 variables. And when we click in here, we'll see we get manufacturer, class, and displacement. So it's also reordered these columns for us as well, which could also be very useful in certain circumstances.